I would think there'd
a
be.
curriculum with 11 modules
Oh.
in it, and I moved around the order of the modules
Yeah,
because
right
they're
there.
not sequential.
Yeah, I think
In
that's
order
good.
to
Turn it just a little.
talk about disciplinary action, because there seems to be a lot of it. I don't know if after the holidays people just lose it or what, but I thought the timing would be good to discuss disciplinary action for staff. But one of the things that I need to say about that is that we're going to be talking about management styles and management philosophies, and we're going to be talking about motivating staff. So I want you to understand that when I talk about disciplinary action, this is not the only tool in the toolbox. Because if all you have is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail. And I want you to have more tools in your toolbox than just a hammer. I always kind of joke a little bit about what it's like to manage people. And one of the things that I say is that it's kind of like trying to nail Jell-O to a tree. I mean, I see you guys with your 3 shifts and your people all over the place, and some are new and some are, have been here a while, and it can be kind of challenging to do. Sometimes it's like trying to fly a bus and you just can't get off the ground. Sometimes it's like herding some cats. There's a video of that. If you go to YouTube and type in cat herding, you will see a hysterical video on herding cats from the Super Bowl a few years ago. But I can't get online, so I can't show you the video. But it's pretty good, because that's sometimes what it feels like we're doing, People don't want to do what you ask them to do, and it's difficult. And so, when you manage people, especially if you're managing people in the program services, it can be especially difficult. So, I want to talk a little bit about how not to do discipline. So I was hoping you would share with me some of your ideas about management that help you not have to write people up all the time. What works for you? What's that? You're not telling me.
Maybe write out something, write it, and one side, and then home. Let's stop it. I've never had to go past that point where I need to involve.
If I talk to your staff and I said, is your facility, would you say that your team is all for one and one for all? What would they say?
Yeah.
That's a great approach. Because you know what, they'll hold each other accountable.
And that's what happens. So it's a lot of independent. I have been blessed. All my all have, so they don't have to communicate without, claws out and all the extra. So it's one of those points.
Sure.
Well, in terms of what we do in colleges is that we find it over the years that the newer individuals that with their philosophy of work is a lot different than people who have been in the work field for some time. And because they are now hopping from place to place to place, and the experiences that they're picking up may not match up with what the accountability is for new avenues. So when they come in with that idea and that thought pattern that I'm here to either babysit, they'll go from, say, a supported living setting or independent living setting to an ICF setting, the rules are totally different even in the state.
Yeah.
So they come in with that. Those are the players that are hard to get into the loop of doing what they need to do consistently. They'll do it initially, but then they get off into those habits that they've had.
Yeah.
And that's where we're finding the most problems at, is that those are the individuals who we are pretty much having to, even after you sit down with them, you put it in writing, because that's what I do. I write out all the procedures. I have have even gone through personnel policy number 10, read it out in simple English terms for them. And they still sometimes will not follow those policies the way they're written. And I share that with them. I don't wait till they do an infraction to tell them about the policy. I'm drilling the policy at them consistently. And I always say it is policy, none of us, and I train the other supervisors to say, it is not your way of doing things. It is policy way of doing things. And we let them violate policy repeatedly before it actually comes down. When I do my staff training, we go over it, we talk about it, we tell them what policy says. And we still end up sometimes with the end results being, you have violated this so many times, we have another choice. Because I tell staff, all we need is because I have experienced in the past where a staff from another home has brought an allegation against the ICF and my staff or supervisor saying that they don't do that they got fired and they do the same thing and don't get fired. Well, I had to go through an EEOC experience, and that is a lot of paperwork going back to where you first started this, that, and the other, and you have to prove what you did according to policy. And my thing has always been, ever since I've been here, everybody has to be on the same page in terms of management, because if you don't, you can hold New Avenues accountable to serious financial burdens.
Yeah. Because you were saying people coming from our house, but even in-house, if they come work for you, but they were working at another home, they're like, well, she don't do it like that, but it's not, you gotta do it all the same way. That's where everybody get misconstrued and everything, or problems fall, because everybody got their own way of doing things, and they're not doing it the correct way, it's their way.
And that's why I wanted to do the supervisor training, is I want all the supervisors to be in the same room at the same time, so we're all talking about, and that's why I want you guys to participate, because you need to be talking about what you stand for and, you know, what you're doing. And we need to be all for one and one for all, because if the managers aren't, our employees sure as heck are not gonna be good team players. And I think that if you decide that you really don't care, you're just gonna let staff do what they wanna do, falsify the papers and drink some beers and whatever, then it's gonna be hard for her to get her staff to do what they're supposed to do, especially if someone tries to transfer out. So we all have to be on the same page with the policy. But I also think that there's a management philosophy that I'm hoping we develop as one, you know, through this course. And I think, you know, that's gonna be important. I'm gonna share what my management philosophy is here. Oh, wait a minute, that's the next page. So if you guys do exactly what you said, which is discuss performance a lot, you know, as a team, then it's no big thing for somebody to go up to somebody and say, you know what, you left those dishes dirty. But if you never give anybody any feedback about anything, and all of a sudden now you want to criticize, people aren't used to that. So you got to kind of start from the beginning and be honest with people and say, you know, I'm really struggling with that. And you got to be able to admit when you're wrong to people. It's a really important leadership thing that we have to do, is we have to be able to say, I blew it. Sometimes the culture here kind of feels blamey to me, like we finger point quite a bit. We don't have to participate in that. We don't, as a group. The motto here is, if I can help you, I will. If I can hurt you, I won't. You know, that's what I stand for. And that's if we stand for that together and not do the blamey thing. Because I gotta tell you, usually when I find circumstances not to my liking, whether it's at work or home or anywhere else, I have a part in it. Somehow I brought that crap into my life. I invited my problems to occur in some way, shape, or form. I am not a victim. If there's something that I don't like, I usually had a part in it. And the only thing I can change is me, so the first place I go is how can I change myself here? You know, what am I doing that's not working? And sometimes I'll ask my staff, you know, what do you think about this, or is this working? And they'll tell me. I mean, we say it. Try to catch people doing something right. You know, we went through all this training about positive reinforcement And we have this strong belief that if we reinforce good behavior, that we're gonna get good behavior. And yet with our staff sometimes, all they get is the negative. They don't get, any of the positive. I try to make sure that if I have a criticism for somebody, that I've said 3 good things.
You need that too, as supervisor.
Yes, you do. You do.
We need that too.
Yeah.
We're the uppers.
Right.
You better. They need to hear that.
Piggyback on what you were saying, that was the very next thing that I was gonna say, because especially when you have new employees, there's a lot of other dynamics that they're coming in, depending on what type of employee they are. You start with the negative and end with the positive. That doesn't make the negative so intrinsic on there, whatever the case may be. But how can we then, when we end with the positive, then we go back to the negative, and how can I help you make this better? How can we work together and help you make it better? I'm gonna say that's an idealistic utopia world, but I try to do that.
You gotta create the environment. We can't change employees, but we can create the environment. The guy who started Visa has a saying that ordinary people do extraordinary things. Our job is to create those circumstances, that those things, can occur. And we want everybody to say positive things, not just, us to our staff, but them to each other, them to the people we serve, them to the families. If we get in that mode where we're always trying to get somebody to do something right, there's less, kinds of negative behaviors. I also find that you have to control the message that you give people when they start. Whenever I have someone starting, I do what you're talking about, Sharon, but then I find the happiest person in my house, and that is the person who does orientation. I don't care how inconvenient it is. Who do I want to give my message? Because people will watch what I do. They don't listen to what I say, they watch what I do and how I act. So I don't want to take a negative Melanie, and we all have them, the whiners. That's not a good person to have orienting your new staff, Use mistakes to teach. I do not explain to people that I am trying to teach them something and here's the behavior I want them to engage in, because there's no challenge. But I will often give staff a problem and watch how they figure it out. And sometimes they want to come to me and say, this isn't working, blah, 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 blah. Well, if I solve everything, then what are they going to do when they get a job where they have to solve our problem and I'm not there? So it's important to give your staff a chance to work things out, to learn, to make mistakes, to do it the wrong way, and then figure out what is the right way, to question their decisions, right? Now you cannot do that in what area? People we serve. When it comes to how we're organizing the menus, that's great. But when it comes to my relationship with John, the person who lives in my home, we only do that one way. John is the reason we are all here. The table organization is John is at the top and all the other guys and women. Then the direct service staff are next, because they're the people who touch the people we serve. And then we're below them, and we're supposed to be holding them up, giving them support and training and information so that they can really do a good job of serving individuals. And that goes for no matter where you work here. We do it in HR, do we not? You do it, Sam. Nicole, you do it in your position. But when people come to me and say, I have this problem and I don't know what to do, I try not to fix it. I say, if you want to bring me the monkey, bring me the food. So it's better to come to me and say, I don't know how to get all of these driver's licenses done by XYZ. Come to me and say, look, if I worked this schedule and maybe I got someone to volunteer to help me or whatever your plan is, then your staff are learning to solve their problems. So don't be so quick to tell them how to do it. Take a little time and let them learn. It takes a little patience. One of my favorite things to give to the staff is, and I know you guys might have heard this before, those of you who have shifts. Third shift left a mess. They didn't do the laundry, they didn't do the dishes, or second shift did this. Just say, you know what, I'm gonna give that to you guys. You're gonna come back to me with how you're gonna solve that problem, because I understand how you feel. But my solution is not gonna help you. You need your own solution, the people involved, right? And then you've started the process, what you were talking about in the beginning, which is all for one, one for all. We're a team, and we solve problems as a team. So then there's some hopefulness. In order to be fair, when you come up to see me about a discipline, I'm gonna ask you, did you train them? Show me where. Did you, do they have the authority to do what they need to do? Sometimes we have a problem with that out here. We have responsibilities, but we don't have any authority to do something about it. So make sure that if you want your second shift person to do something, your second shift supervisor, that it's okay with you if they do. Because there's nothing more frustrating, and I know you guys have run into it, have you not? Where you have jobs to do, but you have no authority to do it? Yeah. Make sure they have the resources to perform the activities. Like, let's say you tell your staff to come up with the activity calendar, but there's no money, no supplies, no time in the schedule. That's really frustrating for staff. Because people generally, there's always people who are here to get paid, and that's all they care about. But you guys interview these people, and you're looking for people with heart. Most of the people here have some heart, right? Don't forget that. Appeal to the heart. Appeal to the part of them that wants the red to be the best thing ever. And you know what? This week I heard from someone on the management team something like, don't expect much of direct air staff. That was the message. And my message back is you're going to get what you expect. I set the bar high. Not so high people can't reach it, but just a little bit above what I think people are able to do. And when they accomplish those things, they feel so good. But people know when you don't think much of them. They can tell by the way you look at them. They can tell by the way you address them. I mean, and once I know that you think I'm a piece of crap, they ain't getting much out of me. I'm just not real motivated now, So be careful about your expectations. Set the bar properly. Teach personal responsibility. If I could change anything in HR, there'd be two things I could change. One is that we hire well. Because the better you hire, the better off you are. And the other is create an environment of personal responsibility in the whole agency, not just your home or my department. What is personal responsibility? It means that I know my choices are mine. And when I make a choice, I own it. And when I make a wrong choice, I fix it. And I don't whine, complain, scream, act a fool, talk to everybody who can't help me, all the other staff. That's not it. Yeah.
When you said higher will, what did you mean?
A what?
You said higher will. If you could change anything to a higher will, what do
Yeah.
you mean by that?
I mean that we would only hire great people. But we're not in that environment.
You can't tell.
You tricked me.
Interview.
Baby.
Well, I will tell you that there would be a way to improve hiring here, but the problem is we don't have the resources, the time, or the money to do the kind of things that we need to do in order to do that. I would do some personality testing on actually, for some of the people I did the test. Do you guys know what the MMPI is? It's a multi-phasic personality test, and it finds out if you're mentally ill.
Oh,
So I'd be wanting to do that one,
some of the supervisors might feel that one.
Not just the supervisor.
Oh, also the people that we
Any
get
word-
in
any
that
word
comes to
search.
apply for our position. There used to be a time when they were tried,
We got graduate, high school or college graduates when I first started in business.
right, absolutely. And
Still
now,
get
what
college
you
graduates.
get-
We college graduates.
No, for direct care.
Don't mean you
Oh,
always
direct care, college graduates.
But we don't get a lot of them now, not like we used to.
We have to act this is a care.
Compassion.
Yeah, because you'll never be able to survive working with you. You'll not be able to live that life. You'll never be able to survive.
And the frustrating now with the crisis that we have. And I know it's nothing, it's not what we do, because I believe in what we do, and I believe in the rules that we have to follow for hiring practice. But it's the individuals that we get. Once again, I'm in new employee, and I always get looked at, we're not trying to get them, but we do. Again, on this one, we hired 3 people for the new employee. Only one opening is gonna get in on this one. The other 2 of them is, I mean, why? I don't understand. Maybe if we could change some of the things that we do up front, and I don't know if we can or not.
Well, in this case, we'd have to quit drug testing and quit doing criminal backgrounds.
That's my thing.
Yeah,
Those
because
are the
once you
two
think
that
you got
knocks
them,
me in
then
the
some
butt,
come
but I know
back.
we have to.
Yeah,
And no matter how many times you say to people, tell me
the
now,
truth, right, please.
and they say, no, there's nothing. I said,
I've had
heard
people
it
lie to
before.
me with the finger on the fingerprint thing, that they had nothing.
And then here it comes.
Papers, 10 papers.
So now I'm thinking I got 3 positions here.
And that's why hiring here is challenging, because we don't pay a lot.
Right. That's another thing. I'm happy that we should be.
Don't pay us a lot.
Offering rate, way, everybody, that's it.
If we could pay $12 an hour, it'd be good.
And please increase
It
our
does.
budget.
Yeah, that's right. But that's only because
We ain't even paid up for
I know.
What?
I have one multiple job.
Nothing.
Well, wait at one meeting, we can't, pay more than we receive. It's very obvious that we're not getting a lot
That's
of.
why you have to start off saying, this is nonprofit.
Yep.
And that's what I was doing.
We do.
But the way things are now is not how they was before.
No.
You had staff that had that compassion.
Everyone
and
can
did
do
what they were supposed. When I first came here, it was nothing.
I say
Like
that all the
it is
time,
now.
so.
Nothing.
You know, another problem that we're having,
We've been here like over 15 years and it's totally different.
but you wanna know one other reason it's different? If you go to the HR conferences, you know what they're gonna tell you about? Generation X and Generation Y. It's 2 generations of people that were raised in daycare because their mothers worked. When I grew up, my mother was at home and my parents told me about work ethic. And I would've got my butt kicked if I did some of the stuff. I mean, some people do not come in with a work ethic. They don't understand that you have to show up at work, you have to do what you're told, you know?
Some do they wouldn't want to assist, but no, it's not good and need a job. But the housing is what's causing a lot of this too, because they can go from one agency to another, but that agency has the extra funding and the extra this and that, and they're handing out, they're giving increases,
And they give
and
them
yet,
bonuses and this and that, so
here
they're
and
like,
that's
school.
all shut down. The expectation level of what they have to produce is high. Our clientele are getting old now, and they're more like the geriatric type individual as opposed to the ones who used to run with you and buddy pal all with you and go out in the community. Now it's back down to old age with behaviors as well as the younger ones with the behaviors, which we have anyway to deal with. I'd much rather have one that tells me to go fuck myself than it is where they have a compassionate one. Because I want to get at that behavior, that's a challenge for me.
Yeah.
But now you got the
Medical aid.
staff in it, and they know all these little games and tricks to play on. You know, even with the agency, they play those games.
But
To me,
with,
that
if
is
you
so
take a look
frustrating.
at what we have to work with and how to proceed, the only thing that we can do is try to bring the best people in. And Frank and I have been working on some additional recruiting strategies that we weren't using before. We're doing stuff besides career board. We're looking at, we can pull people up off of Indeed, and we're using Indeed, we're using Ohio Means Jobs, so we're getting the whole pool of unemployment. You know, we're getting people from there. So we've really expanded our pool of who we're looking for. This is my management philosophy. And I would like to see us, over the course of these classes, have our own. But I encourage independence and I allow for mistakes. I empower employees to their capacity and maybe a little above. I'll let people try something that they haven't tried before, you know? I'm transparent. They know they have my schedule. They can see it in Outlook. They know where I am, what I'm doing, when I'm doing it. They know what I'm working on. We meet every week and we have our goals and our objectives, and we all know what everybody's doing every week. So that way, if I can help them out a little bit, because I have a little extra time, or I run across something that might help Brittany, I can get that to them. I do try to catch them doing something right. And I do speak honestly with them about behaviors that I think could impede their future. But not in a, I never use the word you. You say, I can say, I feel concerned about, none of them are tardy, but let's just use tardy. I'm concerned about your tardiness. This is not a good career move, for the future. It's not a good career move for here. Can we talk about that a little? So the more that we can create an environment where employees can thrive and grow, the longer we're going to hang on to the cool people that we do get, when we're recruiting, and the more that they're going to want to be here. More than anything else here, when I went to the holiday party, I stopped at every table, and there were some things there that really impressed me, and I know some of them are because of you guys, and some are because of your staff. People were not just dressed up. There was detail. Their hair was done, a handkerchief was folded in the pocket, a matching belt, things that I would not have seen in Apple Creek years ago. And people were happy, the individuals were served, were so happy to be there, and smiling and enjoying themselves. There was no room on that dance floor. That tells me somebody cares here, because they were having a blast. And that's what I think we're supposed to be about.
But you know what I would say, like, as far as like supervisors, a lot of the supervisors they've been here for years. So they have good relationships with the clients, they look at them more than clients, but as family.
Yeah.
But the new staff that's coming in, they don't have that same compassion. So it's kind of hard because people, like when of course we here for the money, but as you start working and growing relationships, your heart comes with
Oh,
it.
yeah.
But a lot of people are really just here for the check.
And how could we help them?
And I don't know, because we don't even have incentives to make them happy to keep coming. Like when I first started working here, we had bonuses, we was getting raises. They was, it was like good stuff. Even like when we just got the gift card, they taxes for it. You know what I'm saying? How do they, it's like a lot of, I hate to keep going back to monetary, but we here to get paid for real. But the heart comes along after the fact. You know what I'm saying? But we have a younger staff coming in, they not on the same lines of us. You know what I'm saying? They really here for a check. And you try to get them more involved, but like at my house, every staff that I have, they have 2 or 3 jobs, including myself. So it's really not so much more attention that we put into the house, because while you in the house, you giving them attention, but you trying to get back, because you got to get to the next job when you get off, it's stuff like that. So a lot of that plays part too. You know what I'm saying?
One of the things that I've done, because I know that we can't do anything with the money, there's not been a raise
And 8 years
in Medicaid since 1980s for providers. There isn't. But one of the things that I've done to get staff involved is do assignments, have staff assigned to a couple individuals, and for those individuals, they make sure their clothing is right, their drawers are right, they have contact with their family, so it's a more personal.
we do that. But see, like for me I show myself appreciation myself. I do personal things. But what I'm saying is that's not the same as the company. I can't speak for all supervisors, but even me, I want to pat on the back sometimes. I don't want to just get an email because you think my paperwork is wrong. I want you to say, doing a good job, you have to work all this because you have. I don't get that. You know what I'm saying? So that brings you down with how you feel about working here too.
So it sounds like some other people need to invite to be
Another
invited.
issue is staff feel that the people they should be able to go to, they can't.
Yeah, I know.
They can't.
But what I can tell you is that I am hoping to get approval. One of our goals in HR this year is to relook at how we reward staff and to come up with some better ways to reward the people who should be rewarded. And I'm gonna have a committee to do that, because I can't do that in my office. I need you guys and your staff there, because I can come up with something that doesn't make anybody happy, not even know it, because I'm not out there enough, you know?
And you really don't know, because you look still, you know.
I do, very new.
It's gotta be more of a fair and equitable thing when you give them that appreciation.
Yeah.
Because the way we are doing it now, I could have someone save someone life
Yeah.
and put it into the pot. And because of the method of how they pick them, they don't.
I just want you to know, that's how this goal got to be different this year.
And sometimes
But
people need
Exactly
it,
that.
some people need them individualized, like you need to say, Sharon, you did a good job, not, Zeke Cottage did a good job. No, sometimes people need to be pointed out
Yeah.
personally for their good deeds, or showing appreciation or something. Yeah, because remember what, I think they still do it, but we used to have, staff of the month, I think they still do that, but it's not as exciting as it used to be. Even with the employee of the year and all that, when we used to do that, we used to get excited, well, I did. I could say, at the holiday board stuff, I used to get excited if I got nominated, or people not even into that stuff no more.
Yeah.
People don't even want to fill out the paper, or, you know, it's so,
I know.
it's different, it's
I'm
so
gonna
different.
tell you the incentive that I put out to my staff to say this, and I told them I can't guarantee, but I'm certainly gonna put it on the table, and if it don't work for me, then I'm up to say, I don't know how much more longer I'm gonna be here. For what? Professor and Zeke Cottage has gone through this month alone. It's almost drove all of us to say, forget it, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But they're still sticking, we're still at that hotel, the state guys, so we're still there. It's not that Blue Avenue's just not trying to move forward to get it done, because they are. But it's the frustration level, the clients are getting frustrated, we are getting frustrated. The amount of work that is put in to keeping them safe. I mean, we've had gone from being accidents to their hospitalization for pneumonia and you name it. But I've said to staff, for all those who stepped up to the plate, who've been willing, and now we've got outsiders who agreed to come in from other homes to help us with the coverage thing, because you gotta stay to that ratio. I'm gonna start with those staffs, putting their names in month by month by month for employee of the month. If they don't get it, if they wanna throw their names in that pot, pick from every other home for it, then I'm gonna be teed off. Because these guys have worked to the bone, they are exhausted.
Well,
But
you
they're
and
still doing
I should talk personally about this, because I don't know that the employee of the month thing is going on at all.
I think it's.
It is.
They give us a monthly.
It is.
I know, it's an email.
They just get nominated. They're always nominated, but never picked. And I think we need to change the way we do that. We need to take a look at what the people are actually doing, as opposed to saying, I know if she puts hers in for her home, she wants them too. But we gotta find a way besides throwing all those good names in there and pulling it out of a hat.
Can I throw a suggestion out here? Instead of the employee of the month, my staff pretty much, I stopped that years ago. Why can't we just write accommodations for our
Yes.
staff? And then in the newsletter, it's written, Joe
So everybody
Schmo was
can see it.
accommodated by her staff, her supervisor, because she blah, blah, blah.
And
That is
I
a list,
remember-
it's in there, every time we send something, it's publicized.
I remember years ago, we had a bad blizzard when I was still working at Edison, and they sent out everybody that went to work, y'all.
Oh, I remember.
And they gave everybody accommodation,
Recognized
yes, and
everybody.
they said, they put everybody's names that came to work and everything. We just had a couple of bad, and nobody got recognition for us coming to work. Y'all was here when it was a black, and wasn't no electric, didn't nobody say thanks for showing up, nothing. And that makes people feel like, well, damn, they don't care about us either.
We have to address that, but I can't do it here, but if I can count on you guys to sit on this committee, I think I need to do it sooner than later, I was gonna do it
We've
separately.
been doing this, dressing it, and it's like, they only, it doesn't matter really. And that's aggravating.
I'm
You
gonna
have
tell
no
you,
idea.
I need help with how do you understand individuals that's totally lazy? How do you get past, because I'm so used to people follow direction as my thing, I've always been voiceful about how I feel about things, I can be for the staff, the clients, or my team.
Yeah.
I'm willing to speak up for that. But what kills me is that when I have people, I don't understand how you work with people just blatantly.
Well, that's kind of where we are right now in the training. So laziness is a good example, not completing your jobs.
Yes.
A lot of times what I think is hard is people are in a house where there's a TV and a recliner and a channel changer, and it's confusing about being at work. You know, I think they get confused. But what I want to do is come up with some examples of some poor choices that you've seen recently, and we'll use laziness for you. And then I want to talk about addressing them. What other kinds of things?
I tell my staff, if the residents aren't home, the TV is off. And I'll come and turn the TV off and let them know, in a polite way, you know, that they need to be upstairs in the bedrooms and doing something. They're not gonna sit here.
But you know what's bad too, it's like if you have a staff that has been, like, you might have had a staff that's, you know, vet, and then you have a new staff coming in, and they watching the older staff that been here, so they looking like, well, shit, it's cool.
Okay.
Because she been here for
Right.
years, and she doing it, so evidently that's what we supposed to do, we can do this.
Uh-huh.
Or she listening to the older staff saying, girl,
You ain't
that's
gonna
what we
do
do.
that.
Right. So then you got a problem.
And so then we got two write-ups, don't we?
See,
One for the person to tell people to do stuff they're not supposed to, and another write-up for someone not doing what you told them to do. Because if your boss tells you this is what you're gonna do,
don't listen to the staff.
and Sam
Right.
tells them, oh, don't do that, do this, it's on them. I don't feel sorry for anybody who says, well, I didn't understand I was supposed to do what my boss said. You're too stupid to work here if you don't know what a boss is.
Because I tell my staff all the time, I was already care, I know what you can do in these hours, I know what can't be done.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't give you nothing that you cannot do. Everything that I give, I know that they can be done because I do it, and I have done it. So, but they
So
lazy.
that's two examples that we have. What other kind of things have you seen happening lately in homes? What goes on, not just in the homes? What happens at the workshop? What do you have to write people up for there usually? Or who's ponying up for a write-up?
It's simple, I mean,
Your clients
it's pretty much the same thing, but in the day services, it's the frustration of, you know, you come in and you present yourself in this manner, and you have this resume in front of you, the honeymoon period's over, then you become lazy, and then you get caught up in all of these write-ups, and you pretty much turn yourself inside out to help this person understand, this is what needs to be done, like you said, I don't ask you to do anything that I have never done. I've been on both sides of the fence. I came up from direct care. I ran group homes and I ran day services. I know what can be done and this is what needs to be done. You don't do it, I don't need you.
Exactly.
And that's what I don't like.
But is that what we're saying to people? Are they getting that message?
I don't say that, I'm just saying that
Yeah.
this is what
How you
the
feel.
frustration and everything like that, it should not, like I say, it should not be constantly, oh, write up. It should be like, okay, here's what's going on. Help me understand what you need. Why is it? But there's this intuitiveness that you need in this field that some people don't have. And when that comes around, I say, look, maybe you're not meant for this shop or this field or this home. Maybe you should go to the shop. Maybe you'll like that better. I try to give them other options too because we have so many other facets.
But that's not personal responsibility. We have to hold people accountable for their
But
choices.
you're also giving
But
them,
the thing I don't get, everything is pretty much repetition.
True.
So how you can forget not to do what you got to do? Because everything is like, it's nothing. If your clients know what they got to do, why can't you get it? You know what I'm saying? Everything is repetitious. Like it's not. I mean, now that you have some changes, but pretty much everything is this way, this way, this way, and they still can't get it right.
you follow.
Yes.
And you get them on the same page with what they have to do, and it lasts a short time. And
Well,
then they're right
there's a
back
lot
to
of tools that you can use in supervision to help you with accountability. One tool you can use is a duty roster, which is just simply, you know, the days they work and the things are supposed to be done, and they have to check it off, and you review it. How come it doesn't work?
It just don't work. First of all, we can't be there 24/7, and I'm not a babysitter. So therefore, it's like, you gotta play all these different roles, so you hope and pray that they do what they supposed to do, and when you get the letters, it's checked off that they do it, but then you go look and it's not done, so now.
That's
bang,
what the
bang.
write-up has to
But
happen.
that's what I'm saying, but it's like she just said, for 3 months, they might do what they gotta do, then on that 4th month, oh my God, we back
Yeah.
at it.
Slip
Like,
back in.
it's a headache.
But if you don't write people up, they're not gonna stop it. Because
I write
when
till
you
they
don't,
get out the door.
And they, exactly, this is what I'm saying, it
It's like
don't
that health and
matter.
safety book.
That's just what she was saying, people
Yeah.
just don't care.
They don't.
They
Because they
don't
can go
care.
to somewhere else. They know they can leave here and go to
And
another
let
agency,
them.
another one. And that's good. I write them up till I get rid of them.
I mean, basically, your
And
choice.
sometimes the agency don't even get rid of them, they just send them to another home. So what is that
So-
thing? So what, so now they looking at you like, nah, I'm over here now. So what did that make? You know,
What I'm
did
saying
it
though
make?
is that your choices are to continue to weed people out using disciplinary action when they're not doing what they're supposed to do, but every time you ignore the stuff people aren't doing or should be doing, you've told the rest of those staff that that's okay. If they all wanna be like that, they can be like that.
Here,
So-
staff need more verbal prompts than the consumer.
Exactly.
I understand that, and you gotta decide, you know, where is your tolerance for poor performance? You know, I don't know, maybe you have this much, maybe you have this much, but the more tolerance you have for poor performance, the worse the performance is gonna be.
Now, that is one thing that I drill at the supervisors at work. You have to, there's a difference between when you're supposed to act in a direct form and say, this is policy, you're violating, and now you have to deal with it. But before we even get to that point, they have already violated it so many times.
Yeah.
But you still can't have a compassionate heart when you get to that point. It has to be in writing according to policy and procedure.
And you know what unemployment is gonna say to me? They're gonna say, this person been doing this for 10 years.
Exactly.
Why fire them now? That's why I feel that, you know, once you've tried what you can try with employees, if you don't start the disciplinary action, the message is, you know, we're gonna let you get away with this
And the
crap.
longer they get away with it, the longer they gonna do it.
That's right. I mean, it's the truth, it's a
We don't have
problem.
a lot of room in the ICF tomorrow to let folks get away with stuff because we are held accountable to the avenues as well as the state.
Right.
And all we need is one person to do something that's totally wrong and everybody else follows suit. Everybody else is wrong, then we're gonna get a citation for it. So we are held accountable at a different state than, maybe some of the other ones, but, we're looked at as though we're the mean drillers. And everybody else is not having to do it, you know?
And as we go through this supervisor training, we're gonna be talking a lot about skills to manage and deal with some of this stuff. So I wanna talk, while we still have some time, about terminations. Because terminations are things that can cause us a lot of potential liability and lawsuits. And I talk a lot about the law when I talk about human resources, but you know what I really care about? Are we treating people right? You know, the laws are just kind of the basics. They're the least amount you have to do. What I want to talk about is what's the right thing to do? You know, are we equitable? Are we consistent? Are we treating people fairly? If someone's been terminated, anybody who gets terminated ought to know it's coming before they come to my office because of what they did. They should know that what they did is wrong and that they're going to be terminated. But here's some questions I like to ask when I'm thinking about termination. How long has the employee been here? I'm going to treat you much differently than a new supervisor. Much different. How has your performance been? If you've been a great employee for 17 years, and I got a supervisor in their 90-day period, that's a completely different issue. did I do my part to train and provide that person what was needed to do the job? Or was I not there for the person? Yes, I know what you're thinking.
No, because that's so crazy because there's a lot of team leaders that had no training at all and just got threw into the woods and it was, you know, like me personally, I went in with the ICFR standards, you know what I'm saying? But not necessarily saying that was right or wrong, but I did what I had to do and I, you know, everything fell into place, but I had no training, absolutely none. None. So it ticks me off when somebody tries to say, well, sometimes I never, and I always let it be known, I did not get trained. So what I'm doing, you know, if it was wrong, it's been 8 years and growing, and somebody should have been pointed it out.
Yeah, we are working on an orientation program for supervisors. I got the same training you did. How serious was the infraction? You know, like, did the person not show up for half a shift? Or did the person strike an individual? That's two different issues there.
Or call off on Facebook.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
I called off on Facebook.
One of my favorites.
I had one called off in human
And
resources.
could what they did cause the agency potential liability or harm? Like if someone strikes a resident, you know, those are all kinds of lawsuits waiting to happen, right? Or if someone is guilty of sexual harassment, that causes, you know, all kinds of issues. So sometimes I'll talk a little bit about neglect. Sometimes when a staff person isn't there for an individual, like we have one person who decided to go in our van and get some cigarettes and come back. Even though no harm was done with the residents, serious harm could have been done, right?
There's nobody else there.
No. So, but the question is then, has anybody else done something like this? And did they receive the same treatment that this person's gonna receive, you know?
Well, you have to know whether or not, because like she said, we can't be here 24/7. If no one ever tells us that an issue is going on, and I just experienced, not that particular issue, but an issue where a staff just wanted to straight up and quit, but never said the issues were why, that they had been seeing all along. And being that they were a good employee, you know, after hearing the issues that they had, I understood why they did what they did. They said it's right to do it that way, but it's still, I don't know how.
And that's why you really want to work on having an open environment, a team environment where people can say, you know, I don't feel good about doing this, or do not have that person passing meds, they're an idiot. I don't care if they're a med passer, they're not the right person to pass meds, you know. You gotta be able to feel free to say things and not get punished for it.
But it's
So-
crazy because you can speak, you can voice that, but the agency, they'll still say, well, they'll blow you off. So then you looking like so it's like, oh my God, why even say anything? Because they're not even gonna take what you said into consideration.
Well, I encourage you to catch that. Bring it up, Jane. Keep bringing it
Yeah.
until you see a difference. And if you don't see a difference, then work on it. But if you bring something to me, you don't see a difference one way or the other.
Denise Bar, please dial extension 355. Denise 355.
Tell anybody to use their position, but we can't send a message that it's okay when the supervisor's not around to do what you're supposed to do, especially if you're labeled as a group leader or
Right.
a team leader on the ship or what have you. It's got to be brought up so it can be dealt with before people get so frustrated and we lose the good staff.
But like you said, they have, like staff have their own little packs. So they speak amongst themselves, you don't know nothing, everybody, and then until something blows up. And then they say, well, 5 months ago,
Yeah.
you're like 5 months ago, you know.
It's called timely.
Oh my
reporting.
God, like, it's nothing it's out of your hands really, because it's already exploded to what it's gonna be. You couldn't have prevented it nowhere if you wanted to, because it's done.
And I tell them, don't bring up your old issue, because it's about today. It's
Right.
about timely reporting. Something was happened 5 months ago, I need to know that.
Exactly.
Not today when you're in trouble.
Not, or they mad at each other, so now they wanna expose the next person,
Well, I'll tell you
The
when,
policy say they're just as guilty as the person.
and that's what I do,
Right.
and that's
That's
how
what
I
I get
am,
back to.
that's me all the way, if you telling, you seen it, you knew, so you just as guilty as they are.
And see, you still in fact, they try to get it.
and when somebody wants to tell you something about something else, invite the other person in the room.
That's right, you all talk about it.
Yeah, we're not having any secret meetings. The other thing you gotta ask is, were the policies followed? Did the employee know it was wrong? Did the employee get a chance to fix it? Did the employee know the consequences? And do other employees who do the same conduct receive the same treatment? And if we are down with all of those, we gotta gather some facts. So first of all, what's the difference between hearsay and testimony? Yeah. So hearsay can give you a hint sometimes about what happened, but it can't be listed in the facts. Testimony is what anybody saw, smelled, heard, first person, and they have to make their own statement independently. Then you gotta look at what's in writing. I'm telling you guys, I used to audit, do you guys do logs? I used to audit logs. And you see something coming from a mile away when you just sit down and read a month. You know, you see stuff you don't see when you just look at each entry, you know, every day. So you gotta look back at what has this person been documenting? And how does that affect, you know, their issue here? We have to interview the employee. Tell me some techniques to interview an employee. What do you do?
What was the investigation?
Yeah, when you're trying to investigate something. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I do. We get the initial verbal statement if there's something on a serious level. Then, I want it in writing. I don't want anybody giving information without putting it in writing, because I don't want to have to misquote what you said. Now, they will say, well, I wouldn't mean to put it that way. There's a difference between people who know how to have good writing skills and people who don't. Those who don't will say something verbally one way,
And write it down.
but
let it
write it
go.
a whole different way, which I have to go back there and say, is this what you meant when you said this to me? And I read back what they write, and I says, I don't think you meant to use that word, you meant to use this word. And the spelling is atrocious. I mean,
Yeah.
and I always tell them,
The handwriting is
please,
atrocious.
please,
The handwriting is atrocious, that's why I say please print, because
The other thing is, what are some of the don'ts in an interview?
They ask about age, they ask about religion, they ask about, stuff like that.
don't assume anything.
yeah, that's true.
We don't give them any hints. We don't say, oh, were you really mad? You know, we don't put words in their mouths. We let them make their own statement. We just ask, you know, what happened on Tuesday is a good way to start. We can say, who did you interact with? What happened? Who was there? Those questions, but never suggesting to anybody that they had a particular feeling or a particular action. You know, didn't you push so-and-so? We don't say that. So it has to be, yeah, it has to be completely objective. What happens if Fred, we hear from the grapevine that Fred, your midnight person, let somebody who was non-ambulatory lay in filth all night long? But we can't prove it because he's, I mean, you can't tell by looking how long someone's been sitting in that kid. What do we do?
That's when you start to investigate. You said you got that cue, so let me watch Fred and see if I can catch him again.
Start doing your own type of investigation, like party coming in, what time you want to be coming in, and stuff like that.
Long-term care, I used to work with that. At that time, I didn't have no kids, they never knew I was coming.
Well, just call Althea, because she's got some tricks. Sometimes though, we get nothing. We get no facts, we just have hearsay. What would you do in that situation?
Well, if it keeps going on, the body's gonna take it with itself now.
Yeah, it will.
And then accountability is gonna go.
I think that I would do a counseling, a documented counseling and retraining, so we can start, you know, the chain of events. And like you said, I love the diaper marks. You know, just put a little mark on the diaper and the next day, see if it's still on there.
But I had to do that with the staff was eating clean stuff, so I had to start doing certain stuff so I could catch the culprit. And that's aggravating, because that's,
I know, it's a game.
That's, who do you want to
It's
work in?
disrespectful, you know?
It's aggravating, and it should be embarrassing for staff, really.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
it's bad.
I think once you truly get a person to understand the responsibilities to their job duties, because we share that with them, I know you do.
Yeah.
That go over those job duties repeatedly, and anytime before we go to a personnel report, we have had a documentation sheet where they have signed off on it, talking about that one particular policy or that issue.
Yeah.
And it's still, it gets frustrating to me that,
And see, I used to do, the in-services and not specifically say the person, I already knew who the culprit was, but I would say as a whole,
All
you know,
staff.
because I don't want to pinpoint, but I stopped that, I pinpoint them all out. I say the name,
you have to because.
I gotta say it, because when you don't do a group, everybody say, she ain't talking to me.
Yeah.
It ain't me, it ain't me, so now I say,
Put pressure on each other. I don't wanna hear
I
that.
know,
No, it's
I
a-
say,
it's
so
just
now
like
I just gotta, it's you, and I know it's you, and you better stop it.
I like to-
All right, so before we do the termination, a couple things. If it wasn't in writing, it didn't happen. We have to see if our documentation matches what we're saying we're terminating for. Are the facts present in the documentation? And this is a tricky one, because I've seen these here. Is the problem, the articulated problem, the real reason for wanting to discharge the employee, or do we just want to get rid of them? I mean, sometimes,
And then that was just a, whoa,
yeah. Exactly. I think there's a song like that. I think T.I. did a song. Here we have a written warning, we have a written reprimand, a suspension, a discharge, and a termination. A written warning is usually the first step, but not always. Let me take an example of neglect. If someone had wet socks and shoes, and I didn't change them, you know, quickly enough, that might be a written warning. If someone sat in the same place all night and I didn't interact with them, that's probably going to be a written warning. Or if it's the second neglect. If I failed to supervise someone who had 15-minute checks and they got outside, that would be a suspension. Make sure that your staff read the IHP, because the IHP sometimes has the level of supervision, and it's not anywhere else sometimes. There's no program. So if it says 15-minute checks, make sure they see that we mean 15-minute checks, because we had someone leave and get 2 miles away in one of the homes because someone wasn't doing those checks. Obviously, discharge and termination are the same thing. But it doesn't always go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You may have like a written warning, a written reprimand, and a suspension in your file, and you're up to 4 points. And if you do another neglect, level 2, you're going to be a termination. So you have to look exactly at what the policy says about the behavior and go from there. So when you're getting ready to figure out where to start, in addition to what the policy says, You're gonna be looking at the history of their employment, how long they've been with us, what we've done with other people, how severe it is, and if there were extraneous circumstances that we, could account for. And then we're gonna go from there. I handed you a form. Has anybody not used this form yet? Oh, good for you. All right. I'll take one. So you put the employee's name, their title, if they're in supported living or admin, yeah.
On all of the papers, personal report, status change report, termination report, they only ever list discharge, there's no distinction between discharge.
It's a typo.
I would say,
Where did you see termination on their paperwork?
that's not all the.
No,
It's just on mine,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an error. I wanted to get my point across, so I thought of two ways to say the same. There's no difference in my mind.
Okay.
Some people would say that a discharge is involuntary and that a termination could be voluntary, like a resignation could be a termination. It really depends on what your codes are in your software. So you gotta list the policy violated. Most of the time it's policy 10, and I brought some copies of policy 10 if people don't have them. One of the things I don't get very often are commendations. But this form can be used to give a commendation to someone for good performance. And that's probably what we should talk about for the staff at Stephen Presser. Then you check the disciplinary action and the points are in the policy. When you describe the event, this is how I am going to submit this to unemployment when the person claims unemployment. So I need to see that there is just cause for discharge, in what you wrote. And then the action taken will be an explanation of termination or suspension 5 days or whatever, and that section will have points. You can do this off of the hard drive so there's more room to write in the event section. It has to make sense. So what I don't want to see is a discharge for something that happened last summer. Because I'm probably going to veto that one. Once we've decided someone shouldn't work here, we need to proceed expediently. Was the documentation done in a timely fashion? That means that if I have someone that had 2 points going into the termination, I do not want to see 7 write-ups for the last 30 days all submitted on the same day. Unemployment will ask you, they did ask us about that, actually. We had one like that. So, it's very obvious to them and to me. That's disrespectful to the employee. I don't care what the employee did, that I have to make up some shit real quick so I can get you out of here. You either meet the criteria or you don't. And if you don't, then it's my job to manage you. That's when we get those big budgets. I'll tell you what else I got. I had an employee that we terminated not long after I got here who had all kinds of awards and crap in their personnel folder, and it's something you gotta think about, Like, I think it goes to what you were talking about, when we do employee of the month and stuff, the way that we figure out who wins may not be our friend. We maybe need to fix that. Because we might be just pulling one out of the hat, and we didn't verify that person's, we do now. If someone is up for award, we check in the personnel file. But, yeah, it's not good. So we have to find that people are discharged and connect just cause, and there has to be some fault on the part of the employee. What just cause means, and the judges or the hearing officers tell you this all the time, it's what would a person of ordinary intelligence consider to be a justifiable reason for discharge of an employee. There has to be some fault on the part of the employee, although the conduct need not reach the level of misconduct. So, what unemployment thinks is reasonable doesn't always match what New Avenues thinks is reasonable, because they do not understand who we serve and the vulnerability of the people that we serve. And so, I think because of the amount of abuse in nursing homes, they're starting to get more, in tune with it. But it's very difficult because they will allow someone to get unemployment for things that we think are absolutely crazy. One of the things about unemployment is, let's say you had an employee steal some money from your petty cash. And we weren't real sure at first exactly how much money they stole from petty cash because they took the records with them. So we're going to terminate them because we know they took petty cash, but what we didn't realize is it's going to be a felony because of how much was in petty cash. Well, unemployment won't consider the fact that they're charged with a felony after they're gone, unless we took action before we terminated them on that same thing. So you can't, I've had things happen, I've had people get DUIs after I fired them. But that doesn't matter, probably because they were so sad, but it was too difficult. So we can't do that. Here's the no-nos. Don't try to write up a bunch of stuff in order to get points to discharge. Be consistent. Everyone here should get the same treatment no matter the title. I got a weird email not too long ago from someone who said, well, I think that my supervisors should not be treated as harshly as the direct care staff because they don't have coverage, which I disagreed with. What'd you say? That's what you thought. Everybody gets treated the same as long as I have something to do with it. Do not let employees work after you say they have to be fired, because unemployment looks at that and goes, it must not be that bad. I think what people will do is say, oh crap, I don't have any coverage. So I'm going to discipline you in 2 weeks after you're done working for me.
Yeah.
Oh, don't have coverage to cover them. Oh,
Yeah. So these are the reasons that people can be terminated according to unemployment. What? These are just cause for discharge. Oops. Those pretty much float with our disciplinary action policies, pretty much. So basically, you have to be here. You cannot smoke dope at work. You cannot smash our van.
you should.
Right.
You cannot borrow $10.
Right, not at work. She said.
You cannot have a personality conflict with Althea.
Or no.
I try to.
You cannot refuse to do the dishes. And if you tell someone to do something, they cannot refuse to do it. And you cannot abandon people, the people that we serve, ever, for any reason. What questions do you have?
I have a question.
Yeah.
You gave an example of somebody applying for unemployment that had work. Well, or got, so does that make it harder for the agency?
If someone applies for unemployment, why?
Well, she said they get terminated.
They got terminated.
Yeah. No, it's not hard if we're terminating them for cause.
But they have awards in their,
Well,
Does it
what
make
that
it harder?
does, not so much for unemployment, but sometimes we get pulled into court and they can, get the whole personnel file. And their lawyer would consider that a big treat.
But Paula, part of it is, it depends on what. If you push the client down and they bust their face right on the jack.
But if
I don't care what the board, I mean,
But if
now
you terminated them and you saying that they have, you terminated them because they haven't been coming to work or they're not coming to work or they're doing it, and you've already been on board, then you're one of them.
because you have to think too, now all of a sudden there's something wrong. It's all figure out why this staff not coming to work.
Let me say one thing about
Right,
it.
there's something wrong.
It's where that comes up is when you had like progressive discipline where you're saying it was because they hit their 6 points in a year, and then, so they got a few other points, then you gave them employee of the year, and then they got a few more. It's,
Why would you?
well, that's the point. It's, if they've had, in the course of this year, if they've had every attendance problem, insubordination, bad attitude, and then you give them a glowing review that says that there's all fives, nothing wrong, then you go back to documenting insubordination and all that, they're gonna say this doesn't make any sense. But yeah, you can have an employee who got all kinds of awards and then push somebody down the steps, and those awards don't negate anything. It's when you're saying like that they had a pattern of bad performance, but you awarded them in the middle. That's the,
It's just what would a reasonable person think, but like I said, unemployment has a much lower standard. I'm trying to think of some examples when people got unemployment that I thought.
one other thing where unemployment, is like did they know that would get them written up? So if all of your write-ups were for attendance, but then your last one that hit your 6th point was because you forgot to fill out the whatever documentation law. Yeah, they're gonna say that was their first offense of this. So you gotta look at making sure that it's shown that whatever you're actually terminating them for, that it had been addressed and that they knew. If you're saying they got 5 write-ups this year for attendance, but the termination is gonna happen because of this documentation, when did you train them and tell them if they didn't do documentation, it could get them fired?
That's where annual training comes into place, you just get all those subjects, documentation.
Well, we pull all that out when they say, did the person know?
That's why we touch all that on your hand.
And I totally agree that you should have, when you said that, okay, now I want to get rid of this person, so I'm gonna write you don't have not one single write-up in your file, but now I want you out. So within this 30 days, now you got 30 write-ups. What? So, and you should know that that's pinpointed personal.
That's a personal grudge, right?
And that's how I want to enforce the supervisor. I say,
Make a paper trail.
I say,
Every time you talk to them,
But you know what, that goes back to what I was saying.
Yeah,
When
paper
you
trail.
put something down, you say, read this and sign that you read it. And then you go back like, you signed, didn't you read? They're like, I read it. Well, what did it? They don't even know what it said. They just signed their name. Like for like. They signed their life for
I ain't said it.
I ain't saying nothing till I read it. I'm like, you want termination paper?
yeah!
That's you signing your raise over to me.
Your punishment is we're not punishment. Any other questions about discharge, termination, any of those kind of things? When you have individual cases and you just want to look at them, give me a call. We'll walk through them, we'll see where we are. Because the problem is everybody here is kind of unique, and we don't have, everything doesn't happen the way it's supposed to according to the law. But call me anytime and we can talk it through and see, where we are. Alrighty, I'm gonna give you some time for lunch before management.
It still works, so we still gotta make copies and stuff. That go great.
Alright.
come back to ICF.
Anybody see out of that?
everybody.
Anybody want copies of policy?
Oh, he's late.
Hey, James, did you tell them the minimum requirement?
He's
Not
late.
an hour,
They
you're
gotta
late.
eat hot sauce, or they don't pass the
Oh,
course?
I did tell them that.
Oh,
They were trying to run out before you got here.
I failed.
Jane, is there sign?
So y'all done? What you covered today?
Disciplinary action and terminations.
Oh,
We could have pulled that.
we're ready for some hot sauce.
Are you?
Yeah. I don't have, it's out in the car.
How hot?
Hot.
You want real hot?
I want it real
Who else
hot.
wants hot?
I have it with my tuna fish sandwich.
I'll bring a couple of different
I have
files.
extra copies of policy 10. Anybody want it?
I'll be with that. I need to put my.
Hi there. I missed you.
You can do that.
Guys.
Hey, make sure you sign in over here if you did not.
I want you to. No elevator.
But I don't understand, how does it set them off?